All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the McKinney Podcast. We celebrate what makes us unique by nature. How's it going, Fred?
I tell you, we are in the midst of summer, and I have to say that for being I guess we're starting technically the second week in July.
Yeah, 8th of July.
The 8th of July. I'll take the temps. All right, I will take the temps because we're like, what?
This
80s,
ain't bad.
90s? No.
Lots of rain, moderate temperatures. And, that's not nearly as interesting as bringing the guests in. We thought we were going to have an education-focused summer, and, fate had other plans. And then we get a call from Rick's assistant that he was available and he was open to the podcast. And, full disclosure, as we've said before, like Rick has been on the list since the very beginning. Back when we started episode 0 with George Fuller, we had a list of people we knew we wanted to have on at some point. And I don't know if you can talk about downtown McKinney without talking to Rick Wells.
That's right.
So, Rick, thanks so much for being here, man. I don't even know what to call your title. You are an entrepreneur. You are a philanthropist. You are just an evangelist for the beautiful thing that is downtown McKinney. So glad to have you here, man.
Glad to be here.
So like we talked about before, these kind of interviews with someone who is a public figure, someone who's really well known in the local community, we always love to start with just the personal side. Rick Wells, the human. Whatever backstory you want to give us about growing up, early years, formative years, family, whatever came before the current chapter, we'd love to hear kind of the origin story of Rick Wells.
The 5-minute elevator speech. So, raised in Antlers, Oklahoma, small town in the southeast part of the state. Raised on the Comanche River. I was just there for 4 days by myself. Caught a ton of fish this last weekend, fly fishing.
Nice. Wow. Fly fishing by yourself, that's an experience.
Yeah.
Do you make your own flies?
I catch my own bait. I make my own flies. I caught a monster alligator gar yesterday. First one I've ever caught.
Really?
Yeah,
it was this big, right?
It was that big. It was about 3 feet long.
Wow.
About a 15-minute fight from start to. It was incredible, epic.
Man.
On the river by myself last night, so good stuff.
Awesome.
Raised in Antlers, Oklahoma. My father was a state championship football and basketball coach. My parents bought their first restaurant when I was 12. If they had not done that, I'd be the head basketball coach, University of Oklahoma right now. But I bought a restaurant and been in the business ever since. I graduated at Southeastern State University in Durant, Oklahoma.
Durant, there we go.
Distinguished alumni there. The only restaurateur that's distinguished alumni there. Came to Dallas and started working with Bennigan's. I just couldn't get a job out of college. Started working at Bennigan's in 1984, and really had an impact on me. I mean, I was raised in a small town and small restaurant, and Bennigan's had one of the best training programs out there, and very lucky at the time that our worlds kind of came together there. Worked with them for a couple of years, opened a restaurant for them. Built my first restaurant when I was 26 in what is Solomon's today in Sherman, Texas. A lot of people know where Solomon's is in Sherman.
Mm-hmm.
So I built that restaurant. I built a little restaurant called Springfields and built a couple of more restaurants in my early mid-20s. And like to say, I got out with my shirt on, bloody and torn. But I was able to sell those restaurants and really kind of learn that I wasn't ready to be an entrepreneur yet. Humbling, toughest situation I've ever been in my life by far.
Yep.
Really, just putting everything you had into to a restaurant or to a business, and then bought another one and had 2 of them, and bought Lucille's from. At the time, which was a pretty famous place, Honky Tonk, and had the restaurant and Lucille's, and just really struggled on the back office piece and not the hospitality piece, just learning a business at a very young age. Went back to work for Bennigan's for a bit, and then went to work for Sambuca. Built all the Sambucas around the country.
No kidding.
Yeah, man. So
where are they headquartered? I know they have a location in Plano.
Yeah, that's all they have now. So 95 they hired me. 96 they just opened Addison. And they wanted kind of a guy to kind of take them national. I had a pretty good career with Bennigan's, and so I opened Atlanta, Houston, Denver, and Nashville. So I would open those stores and then build those stores and then operate those stores as a vice president of operations based in Dallas, and really was able to really just cut my teeth on going to different cities, the heavy lift of building restaurants or building anything far away, and having specs, especially kitchens and things like that. Critical dimensions in that world is very important, especially if, like I say, if you're in Dallas and you're building something in Atlanta and so forth. So really good for me to be able to pick those sites with the ownership that's owned by a family, the Forsyth family, and travel with them and pick out spots, and how we, each one of those spots, and we picked them out as a unique story. None of them really real estate driven from a real estate guy, but just finding properties that we liked. And that was a super unique, concept in the mid 90s. It was when I walked in my first Sambuca, I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever saw. Fine dining, live music, from an experience, from an entertainment standpoint. It was really, really interesting to me. So I was there for 9 years and built those restaurants. And 20 years ago, I threw caution to the wind, and I purchased my farm in Lucas. I live on an organic farm in Lucas and have for 22 years. It hasn't been organic that long, but my wife and I wanted our kids to be raised in the country. So yeah, we bought the land and moved out here, and about 2 years in, I decided I wanted to move, start my own business again and move to McKinney. People thought I was crazy, man. 05, 06, we're just about to see 08, right? A lot of release signs. The things I had learned at Bennigan's, the things I learned from a demographic standpoint, looking at cities, there was no place to get married. There was no place but the country club, and that's it. There was just no place to have celebrations and life moments. And that's what drew me downtown first more than anything else. There was no place in downtown McKinney, or in McKinney at the time, 20 years ago, that you could have a life moment. You have an experience, and that's what, and so I met Don, a guy named Thad Helsley. Thad's a good friend of ours, and major impact on this city. He should be on your podcast someday if you haven't already.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Man, Thad's great. He serves on the EDC, right?
Yeah, he was Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Generations of his family lived here. Unbelievable guy to drive to McKinney with. You can tell your history about McKinney.
I don't know Thad personally, but I'd love to have him on. That'd be great.
I've photographed him a couple times.
So Thad, if you happen to hear this episode, we're coming for you, man. We want you to sit in this seat.
Man. So Thad introduced me to Don, and Don had just purchased the building that Rick's Hotel is currently in, and I was trying to buy the prison.
Oh, just around the corner from there. Okay.
Probably would have been a prison if I would have bought it, but I was trying to buy it, man. And
trying to buy it because it was a prison, or did
I wanted to put a restaurant there?
Okay, all right.
I was crazy enough to try to build a restaurant on 2 floors. Well, who would want to do that?
Sure.
Or much less 3.
That's right. Harvest. We'll talk about that.
No, we're going to get there.
And the deal just kind of fell through. I just, it just didn't work. And I went home that night. I'll never forget. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and I go, man, our deal fell through, Robin. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'd left my job. I'd started a company. I had a couple of, gigs. I was helping other people out. My wife was the vice president of the Dallas Market Center.
Oh.
Much easier to you break your golden handcuffs if one of you still have a super really good job. My kids are 2 and 4, man.
Oh.
Met Don. And just I never was scared about it. So what I was going to do, there's we'll probably talk a lot about me getting over my skis. I'm really good about getting over my skis, but then try to figure out how to balance, not crash. But met Don. I had this idea for a restaurant, and that space just really spoke with me from the very beginning. One of the few places, I built 28 restaurants around the country since I was 4 with my parents, and then all the rest are either on my own or with a bidding into Sambuca. Right? One of the first places I've ever walked in and almost saw that dining room and upstairs almost like it is today. I knew I wanted to split it up. I wanted the library. I wanted the wine room. The old opera house in the ballroom. 25 pigeons flew over my head and flew out of a hole in a roof the first time I walked into the ballroom today.
Oh, man.
Really? How about that?
My brother looked at me, man, because I'd built all these restaurants in obviously bigger cities and pretty successful. And he was with me when those 25 pigeons flew over. And there's a hole about where room 206 is today. And there's a hole right about where that bar and the barroom is today.
Sure.
So these pigeons comes toward us and then fly out of the hole. He looked at me and said, "You lost your mind?" These for lease signs up around.
Sure.
Downtown McKinney. No, man. Can't you see it? Can't you see those 6 chandeliers on the hanging from the ceiling? Can't you see these beautiful window treatments? He goes, "No, man, I can't see that at all."
Man.
Mortgage my farm.
Yeah.
My wife and I mortgaged our farm and built rigs. I love to tell that story, but that's
Man.
true.
Yeah, you were all in.
All in, man.
Burn the ships. You're all in, baby.
That's right.
I wasn't all. I like to say I wasn't all in, but man, yeah, I mortgaged my farm. I'm saying this is where I'm going to stick my flag.
You literally bet the farm, as the saying goes.
Yeah.
So I got it.
My wife has a good job, and things like that. But yeah, man, we bet the farm, and we decided this is where we're going to spend the rest of our lives, and we decided that 25 years ago, and this is what we're going to do, and we dug in.
I got to ask just a kind of a tangent question before we really jump into stories about the Chophouse and Grand Hotel and Harvest and the foundation and all that stuff. Because it's one thing to be an entrepreneur. It's one thing to be a multiple times entrepreneur at the same time. But when the building that you're occupying is a historical structure where it's been around for darn near 100 years, more than 100 years now, that brings an entirely different level of challenges because historical commissions get involved. The federal government says, no, you can't do that because this is a registered, place on the historical landmarks and whatnot. What's it like the last 20 something years of owning a historical building that contains, your life's work between the Chophouse and the Grand Hotel and whatnot? That had to be a unique set of challenges by itself.
Yeah, Don, and I don't think Don gets enough credit today, Don Day, and just what his unbelievable impact he has on this city, and he has for a long span of time. But, for him to probably remodel or restore, 30 buildings downtown from early 90s until still today. He doesn't do a lot today. A lot of his operation to Denison, but he's building a building right across from the yard right now, a 3-story. He taught me a lot. He has a huge impact on my life. Top 4.
How about
just
that?
the way he looks at businesses, how he looks at buildings, how he purchases buildings, how he restores buildings, how he remodels buildings. Just an unbelievable talent. I've been exposed to a lot. So, learned a lot from him, about, he knew that wall was behind that beautiful limestone wall. He knew that wall was behind there. He knew it looked beautiful. He's the one that started chipping it off to make sure this and this get blasted out of there, right? He made sure those little things come with this experience. But But yeah, I mean, just, the first thing out of my mouth is a lot of maintenance, right? You paint something every day. You're in a 135-year-old building. You're in a 40-year-old building. So that it's used every day with thousands of people walking through it.
Yep.
Right? So lots of things break and we've just gotten better over time, right? And then as we had success, as I had success, it came to me and with responsibility, right? So as I got better at what I did, and like I had a chance to buy, the Masonic Lodge, I mean, I could have put vinyl windows in it, man. I mean, it wasn't historical. It wasn't a landmark. I mean, I could have put vinyl windows in it.
Yeah.
But that's not what you do, right? You should make it better. That's what I think makes McKinney unique. We have a lot of people in the city that make things better. They just don't walk in and keep it status quo. They make things better. That's kind of, was my goal there, right? So I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves, but yeah, how do you make things better? How do you walk into one of these, preserve history, pay reference to history, and then make it better? So it's a challenge for us on a day-to-day basis with these old buildings, for sure.
So now, looking back, you mentioned that you had built restaurants, and then you sold those off. Do you feel that your time with those ventures, what would you say is a lesson that you learned from those, or was it that you hadn't really baked a concept in your mind of what you wanted it to be? Was it focus, or was it something else that led you to the restaurant and then away from it?
Just experience, right? I mean, at 28, I realized I just did not have the back office. I did not have the tools in my toolbox to be successful long term. Mm-hmm. I needed to readjust. I sold those restaurants. I got out with my shirt on. They were bloody. It was torn. I didn't lose any money. I didn't make any money, but I didn't close them. And it was, at the time, my biggest failure because I wasn't successful. I didn't win, right? Yeah,
but you were net and loss of zero.
I didn't win.
So, okay.
Right. There's winners and there's losers, right?
Sure.
I didn't win.
Oh. Now, have you always had that level of competitive spirit within you?
Probably.
Yeah. Because you said, if your parents didn't buy the restaurant, you'd have been head basketball coach there. Now, do you have any siblings?
Brother.
Yeah. Is he in the is he a restaurateur also, or entrepreneur?
No, we owned a company together for 10 years. A lot of people don't know that company. I owned the company and kind of a financial company with my brother, and really ran his back office for him, and just his backboard more than anything else. My accounting department did more than anything else. I'm his backboard. So
in your own restaurant business, you said that you didn't have the back office thing going on, but with your brother, you were the back office?
Well, that was
he learned it by that
35
point.
years ago, man.
Yeah.
Beat me once, I'm good. Beat me twice, that's another story. Right? So I went back and it's been a few years at Bennigan's. Really understood how to run an overall business. And wasn't there to pay check. I wasn't there. I didn't really care what I got paid. I didn't get paid fairly, but I really made decisions on who I was working with. You don't know until you're 45 or 50 anyway.
That's right. Testify.
Understanding that, and I just wanted to, my focus was to learn. I was going to be a leader, and I wanted to learn from leaders. I went on this massive tangent after failure, after 28, to read every leadership book, to look at leaders, to mimic leaders, to study, let's still do today, to look and see successful people, what successful people do, what do failures do, break down those failures, right? And so that was really my focus coming into, my late 20s and early 30s. And then had some success. Like I said, I went to work for Sambuca, but yeah, it was brutal. Most tough lessons are, right? Most great championships are run from the tough things, not the easy things.
That's right.
So you get your hands on the buildings. They're right there on the corner of the square. At what point did you decide, you know what, I'm going to own a hotel? Because obviously, food and beverage is hospitality. Hotels are hospitality. They're pretty parallel businesses, but they also have pretty distinct differences as well. You can't just say, "Oh, I know how to run a restaurant, so I'm gonna run a hotel now." Where did that motivation come from in your entrepreneurial journey? Like, because the Grand Hotel is a landmark all by itself, separate from the Chophouse and all your other ventures. How did that come to be?
13 years ago, we bought our first preschool. And, my wife wanted to after 25 years as the executive vice president of Dallas Market Center, we had a friend of ours that had a preschool, was really intrigued with the model. I believe you can educate people out of poverty. So we can go and speak a whole hour and a half on just that subject right there. So super involved in education and thoughtful about education in our nonprofit world, and kind of always, and I just believe that. And so when we started looking at buying a school, it's not what I do, right? But I did a lot of research, and when I bought that and had to learn that entire new business. When I went from Bennigan's, I'm going to back up a second. When I went from Bennigan's to Sambuca, I thought I was going to have to change because I was going to. I was Bennigan's, man. It's a very upbeat concept. Everybody's smiling, hi, in Sambuca, though a fine dining, though a live music venue, it was a fine dining establishment as well. So I thought I would have to change the way I manage people, and I realized early, that I didn't. That everybody's the same. I have to change maybe certain management styles, but how you treat people and what you do will make you successful. So, me learning and the school piece of it was a big thing, right, for me, and and learning that with my wife, and it gave me, and then having success there, gave me just a really ton of confidence that we can do really any business, because just how we prepare for things and how we research things. And so when Don, my partner, who was ready to sell the hotel, he was my partner at Rick's, and he owned the hotel outright. So I had a lot of confidence 4 or 5 years ago when we ended up buying the hotel from Don, that it's just another business for us, and we were going to learn it and go deep into it, and still do. It's a very complicated business. No flag, no Marriott flag or no flag out there, right? Just an independent hotel. Those scales are tipped against us in a lot of different ways. So just really learning that, and just felt a lot of confidence that with our system and our people and what our people believe in. I mean, everything that we do are really people-driven businesses, right?
Yep.
Our schools are driven by our teachers. Our restaurants are driven by our leaders in those, and by the experiences, the same way as a hotel. So the hotel has been still, like I say, still learning every day, but had a ton of confidence and still do. It's fun. It's a challenge for us, right? How do you go against the big guys? How do you go against the Marriotts of the world and those type of brands? How do you outmarket them from a guerrilla marketing standpoint? How do you work your community and your brands and what you're doing to tip the scales into your favor? So I feel like that our team, that we can do that, whether that be in a hotel business, a school business, or anything else we do, from our farms to whatever.
I just want to say that whenever I talk to people and they're like, hey, we're coming into town, what should we do? And, the square is always a stop. And we always tell them, get your reservation there and at Rick's. And if you haven't found a place, make it easy on yourself and just book a room at the Grand because you have everything right there. And I said, you sleep in, you can go right out on the square and have breakfast.
Mimosas at
that's right. Yeah,
at
Sundays.
10 o'clock.
That's right. And
in your room.
I want to say that you had a mimosa thing. I don't know if it was Mother's Day, but that sold out. Oh, yeah. That sold out. I remember because I was
probably that fast.
Yeah, it was. Because
I can't imagine a more magical weekend for a girls' trip than you stay at the Grand Hotel and you walk out. You're literally on the square in McKinney.
That's right.
No car needed. No valet needed. You're literally right on the square.
All the things that we share. That's right. That's right. And
all in walking.
Just the convenience. But
you can pop up, do a Zoom call, and still be back on the square in an hour and a half.
Yeah,
perfect.
Okay, so you mentioned the school, and that's a Goddard school, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
we own two of them.
Okay, well that's excellent. And so and I love that you believe that people can be educated out of poverty,
no doubt.
But there is a personal responsibility and work ethic in there that obviously you've built that culture. I just want to say I've photographed you I don't know how many times now, and every single time not every single time, most of the time when I'm taking your shot, it's you're receiving an award. And there is an entourage of your employees, and there is such a family feel. And they celebrate you, they celebrate each other.
We celebrate them, man.
That's right. And I just want to say that, I did a little bit of research, and tell me about the Water Boy.
Well, my father was state championship football and basketball coach. And he paid much attention to the water boy. He did the star quarterback, and that's the way I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
My dad talked about as much about Billy Smallwood as he did Monty Martin. And Billy Smallwood, the water boy, had just as much importance of that team as anybody else on that team, right?
Mm-hmm.
The water boy is the person still today that takes water to the fields and waters the workers who are harvesting our food, right?
Mm-hmm.
The American farmer fed 641 million people last year, and there's a water boy on every one of those farms providing water.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lowest guy on the totem pole, right?
But not the lowest in importance.
It's not the lowest in importance because if he doesn't work, nobody works, right?
Yep.
If a dishwasher, which is the toughest job in our restaurants, right? Everybody should know his name. He's our water boy, right?
That's right.
Do we know him? Do we take care of him? He touches every dish on our in our property, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the mentality that we have.
Mm-hmm.
We're servants.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how many awards we get. Doesn't matter what we do. At the end of the day, when you pull all the layers off us, we're servants. We'll always be servants. We're here to serve our family, here to serve our employees, and we're here to serve our community. And that's what makes us up. And so when you see that celebration of an award or a benchmark or something we were able to achieve as a team, we celebrate it as a team. Because we take our losses as a team as well. Because we give a lot of black eyes and bloody noses that people don't see, right? With bad calls or tough calls, and we have hundreds of employees. We have 17 leaders that run those companies for us, and we support them. So yeah, thanks for seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. But is it the Water Boy Farm? Is that?
So I live on it's what I named my farm that I live on in Lucas. So I live on 6 acres. We grow all the flowers for harvest. We grow about 40% of the flowers for Rick's in the hotel, and we will this year. The rain has got us a little bit. 13 head of cattle. I have 18 acres around me that are favorable leases with friends of ours. So 10 across the pond. Mrs. Evans says 4 behind me. That's 14, and then 4 on the other side of the pond, which is 18 in my 4. So that gives me 22 acres. We just harvested 3 steers, sold a couple of heifers last week, but it's a small head of cattle. I think there's 13 on our farm right now, and a lot of education.
Sure.
We have a lot a lot of tours on our farm. We raise a lot of money on our farm. We do a lot of events. We do a gala every year on the farm. But my father died 11 years ago, and I was really getting really serious. I was given the Civic Leader of the Year award 13 years ago for our work, really, what I did in the homeless space.
Mm-hmm.
I was the president of Samaritan Inn. I was the president when we purchased the land that it's currently on. I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, so
civic engagement.
That's right.
And your dad died 11 years ago.
Thank you, sir. So I was going organic on my farm, and when I was given that award, completely lost my train of thought. Sorry. When I was given that award, I'm going, man, I get all these attaboys for what I do, yet we're spending millions of dollars when I, at the time, called a faceless farmer.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just not thoughtful enough about how we spend our money. We're producing all these millions of dollars in our restaurants, not making millions of dollars, but we're producing millions of dollars, and we're not spending our money. We get all these attaboys for what we do locally, but yet we could do so much more. So I really challenged our team at the time. Mm-hmm. Could we create a concept driven by that?
Mm-hmm.
And we created Harvest. I mean, and that was the point in my life when, man, things were going good. Rick's is 4 stars. We have this little restaurant called Sauce. It's doing well. We built Sauce. Don and I both built Sauce because we wanted traffic downtown. Our main focus at Rick's and at Sauce was how many people can we get downtown after 5 o'clock? Because the streets used to roll up really quick.
Sure.
The sidewalks really quick. And then, but Sauce just didn't drive me, man. It was just a business. And I know that's great, and you shouldn't say because it was a good business, but it just didn't do it for me, right? It was just, we're on this earth for something more than just that.
That's right.
So I really challenged myself and really challenged my team. Could we come up with something that if you spend $1 locally, 70 cents of it would stay in your community?
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the first shot over the bow.
Mm-hmm.
We spent 2 years, and we come up with Harvest.
At the Masonic?
No.
Oh, no, that's right.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That's the original location on the square.
There's 10 years of of plowing and sowing in the ground and working your butt off before that mission award. That mission recommendation came 10 years after that, man.
Yes, the farm to table concept. That was Harvest.
It still is, right?
Yes.
And that belief. What was that belief, right?
Mm-hmm. Because you were catty corner to
believed
the
that
Celt.
we could
remember that.
purchase almost everything we used within a 250-mile radius. We believed that. We sought that out. Now, we knew that we couldn't do that because there was no infrastructure at all.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's why we created the foundation. What the foundation does today is amazing, but it was really first started for education and agriculture initiatives to support sustainability. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until a year later that we even added community into it, right? Because that was kind of our missing piece. But we started the foundation so we could start like throwing mixers and bringing restaurants and chefs and restaurateurs and owners together to talk with farmers, and farmers didn't even know how to even write an invoice to go to see a farmer. And we did all kinds of workshops and underwent all kinds of things like that to start this food movement. Make no mistake. And you see something like that today, and you have no idea what happened 10, 9, 8, 6 years ago to kind of make that happen, right? But we tipped it. We tipped the whole food movement in North Texas. Harvest and Robert Lyford and Matt McAllister and a couple people, we tipped it. But for me, I had been at least successful enough that I could just kind of throw almost caution to the wind, right? I built my own tables. I built my own booths. I knew the guy who did that. I didn't go go spend money and send it to Atlanta, Georgia. I didn't go send money to New York City. I went out and figured out who could build all those things for me here, right? And then obviously the food and the beverage and everything else that went along with it, right? And then from that, we learned, was Waterboy. and so I walked in one day, about 3 months before I opened Harvest and said, I'm going organic and I'm going to build a farm. I mean, I had a few little rows out there, man. I'm going organic and I'm building a farm. And if I knew how hard that was, I would not say it with such vengeance, but I did it, man. And our team did it. I worked with our employees and then we started, what we wanted to do is we started, showcasing, nonprofits every 3 months. That's what the foundation did. We would come up with good ideas and help fund them, right? And we'd fund them through all kinds of little promotions and things within our restaurants, right? All these little things happening in McKinney.
Yes, sir.
Right? Whether that be Cornerstone Ranch or those type of charities that we just showcased, over and over and over again. We use those thousands and thousands of people to walk in our restaurants to drip on them. If you care about it, if you want to grab it, fantastic. Our team will tell you about it and talk about it. If you don't, no problem. We're just glad you come and have dinner with us, right? But that took us to a stratosphere that we never thought we would be in, right? And then we funded McKinney Roots, and the McKinney Roots became a part of the foundation, and McKinney Roots and what McKinney Roots has done, right? Talk about family. I'm in a orientation bringing 2 new managers, leaders into our program today, and I'm talking about employees and culture, right? And the comment was made during the conversation was, man, it just kind of feels like they're family. I said, they are. I mean, people talk about that and use that kind of term kind of loosely. No, man. We feed 350 families a week from our donation farm, and we don't know any of them. You go through one of our companies and go through a 4-interview process, train for 10 days. We spend $3,000 on to train you. We spend an immense amount of time with you. Our leaders do, our trainers do, right? And you get out of training, whether that be a saute cook or a teacher or, a server. Yeah, man, you're part of our family. If you have a crisis the next week, you're in a good spot. Not a good spot as a crisis, but we are going to circle around you. We're servants. That's what we do. So that mentality of the water boy, that mentality of just of making sure that, hey man, we're all in the same boat.
So I gotta ask, it is so easy to be like all the other entrepreneurs out there, where you're just concerned about building a bigger empire, making the next $1 million, or getting another lake house or another vehicle in your classic car collection, or whatever your thing is, as someone who has achieved material success. But everything you've been talking about, and I'm looking at your nonverbals and I'm hearing your words, I'm just like, Rick really cares about this stuff. Right. Where do you attribute that care for your fellow man, that the fire that burns in you for community, for philanthropy, for looking out for less fortunate people and making sure that they are able to get a push upward? Yeah. Where does that come from in you? Have you thought about that?
The greatest among us is a servant, right? You don't have to go very far past that, right? I'm a very spiritual person. I don't go around preaching on the corner, right? But it's there for you, right? I mean, what would Jesus do, right? What would Jesus do? I mean, we get in all these different political and all this crazy stuff. What would Jesus do, right? And that's kind of what would Jesus do, right? I think I have a little Jesus right now, man. I don't know. I might. Here's a little Jesus.
Get hold that up to the camera.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
yeah. Look at that. There you go.
We're on camera.
There's
man.
camera.
I didn't know we were getting. I didn't even pay attention there.
Right there.
I love that.
There, camera 3 is going to take that one right there.
You want a little Jesus?
Well,
I don't go around preaching. I don't give away a lot of little Jesus. That's funny. I had that in my pocket. Somebody gave it to me.
Well, this is going to my desk now.
Man,
Thank you.
Fantastic. Awesome. Fantastic. No, I just think that's what we're here to do. We have the ability to make an unbelievable impact on the world that we live in. Too much is given, much is expected.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wrote that on my fancy Wells Hospitality Group stationery 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped the hospitality when we built the schools and did other things in our company, but it still sits inside my door today. Too much is given, much is expected.
Mm-hmm.
On the bottom it says, use your platform to make the world a better place. So that's what we've tried to do. We have platforms. I didn't think I had a platform, but I slowly but surely, as I got older and had some success, I don't know, 2 or 3 years in, I go, man, I got a platform.
Yeah.
And I can use, and I've never call it a platform, whatever. I've just tried to use our platform to make McKinney better. I want to leave it better than I found it. I'm not. That's it. There's no other motivating factors there.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just like, okay, let's leave it better than we found it.
So speaking of platforms, One Heart McKinney.
Yeah.
Right. You've got a story with that, right?
Oh yeah, big time, man.
So how did that? Give us a little, because you were there at the foundation point, right?
Well, I've had that. Well, yeah. I gave that to the city, and we give an award away, and have. So I'm driving. So we developed this thing. When you open a restaurant in a different city, right, and you just kind of come in, you have to just, open a restaurant is such a heavy lift. It's a building, you're building it. An 1/8 of an inch can be huge to you, right? If you try to put a piece of equipment on something, it's just really, really, really complicated. But I stumbled on this thing called Sambuca Heart, man. And so during training, when we open a new store, I would start all training classes. It's 2 weeks of training, okay? And then we did the same thing every time. It just is a recipe that worked, right? We tell them it's 2 weeks of training. It'll be in this. This is where it's going to be. And there'll be music that's very loud when you walk in. And when training's supposed to stop, the music stops, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I walk in and I go, Sambuca, as loud as I can. And everybody in the room says, heart. I did it 3 times. Okay? It major, just goosebumps around, right? And training that way, right? If somebody walked in late, right, doing that first initial talk, I just stopped. I never said a word. I just stopped. And that person would have to walk in, find a seat, and sit down. Right? We're training 30, 40 people at a time, right? So hence, nobody was late.
Sure.
Right. One cat. The first cat was late. That's it, right? And it was just this great training thing, man. And so I left, started my own company. It's 2 weeks before I opened Rick's. I just loved that Sambuca Heart thing. I just loved it. But I guess it's dead. So I went in and out of my brain. I thought about it one time. The day I'm driving, my first training shot says at Rick's 19 years ago, I go, One Heart, man. We're One Heart. This is us. This is me. I mortgaged my farm. I got to bring these people together. We all have to be one. We're all in this together. And I have to convince these people we're all in together. And so we created that. So I went from Sambuca Heart to One Heart. I started my training session with that. I've done it ever since then. We give an award away called the One Heart Award, voted on by our teams. It's not about the best employee. It's about the people who embody that servant spirit, that help here, who's kind. I think when you walk in our company, one of the very first things you'll notice really quick, it's kind. We're kind. We're hospitable, right? So that One Heart Award, there's hundreds of them now hanging on in a hallway at Rick's. Yep. And then Harvest started down, a few last year, but on the new place. But so yeah, man, I liked it, and probably 15 years ago, I bought the URL One Heart McKinney, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I bought it. I have a bunch of those, not a bunch, but 20 or 30.
Those are still baking.
Yeah, well, I've used most of them, but anyway, I had One Heart McKinney, and March 2020 hit, right? And George calls me, and he's putting together a group of civic leaders, and superintendent and police, fire, and a group of people. It's about 18 of us, and we start meeting, and we meet every week, drinking from a fire hose, obviously.
This was the McKinney Strong Red T-shirts Brigade, right? Was that where you were involved with that?
No, but know what you're talking about there. No, this is called One Heart McKinney.
Sorry, I thought that formed about the same time. I apologize. Carry on. I didn't mean to interrupt your story.
Yeah, that's right. So about 4 weeks in, we realized that it's unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable what's happening, right? I mean, people can't eat. There's, I'll never forget. I'm going to tell you the story. So get me back to One Heart. I called Scott Elliott, which is now executive director of One Heart McKinney.
That's right.
And I go, I have a buddy of mine who can't. He has probably 700 or 800 heads of beautiful lettuce that's supposed to go to the top 4-star restaurants in Dallas, Fort Worth, and obviously everybody's closed. So he's giving away, right? So I call Scott, right? Not thinking. Hey, Scott, can you use these 800 heads? Yeah, man, I could use those 800 heads. He needs a lot more than 800 heads. And it just hits me. I go, oh, man, yeah. I got those delivered. I said, what do you need? He goes, well, I need food. My demand is like 100 times fold. It's scary. He says, I can buy 3 pounds of food for $1. I think it's what he said. 3 pounds of food for $1 at the North Texas Food Bank. I said, I'll call you back. So I made 3 phone calls. I raised $90,000. I called him back like 2 hours later, man, and says, here's $90,000. Go buy some food.
That's right. Do the math on that.
27,000 pounds of food.
I think that's what it was. Something like that. And
we're 270,000.
We're just, that's what we're doing, man. We're McKinney. It's not New York. It's not Dallas. It's McKinney, Texas.
Yeah.
Right? We were circling the wagons. About 4 weeks in, we decide that we need a website. We need a place where people can hit it one time, right? They don't need to find 17 different places for this or that. What can we do to get them food? What can we do to help? And so we created this thing called One Heart McKinney. We decided we need that. And I said, well, I have this URL called One Heart McKinney. That sounds like a pretty good name.
Yes, sir.
Right? Kind of like everybody looks at me and said, well, yeah, it's a great name. I said, well, you can have it. And then Megan Neubauer at the time was my executive director of the foundation. And I didn't want the city, the city would produce a really nice website. Might take a long time, but man, So Megan was really good about doing websites. So I volunteered that, hey, man, why don't we do that website? We had a website built in 2 days.
Wow.
We converted it to Spanish in day 3.
Mm-hmm.
We had where you could get any type of medical service or food or whatever you needed in Spanish and English. And so, yeah, that kind of started One Heart McKinney. That's kind of what it still is today. It's kind of expanded to a bigger piece of that now. I'm on the advisory board with them and sit on the board with Scott. Yeah, it's One Heart. It's all working together. You will hear that theme over and over again in what we do, right? We're all on the same boat. We're all here together. We can only be great together. We can't all be great apart, right? So, man, kind of like a broken record.
Now, Rick, I got to stop the conversation there because we promised you a certain runtime. And we need to have you back for part 2 in a few months and talk about the rest of the Masonic Lodge and Harvest. And
we didn't talk about any of that stuff.
We haven't gotten to anything. There's a whole separate conversation we can have, and I'd love to have that chat in a few months down the road. You want to hit him with the final question, or should we?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there is so much.
There's so much,
so much we've covered.
Let's see. I bet he's got a good answer.
Sure.
Here you go. No. We asked this question. Sorry, that's really loud. I apologize. The slider was turned up. Here you go, Fred. Hit him with that final question.
All righty. So there's no right or no wrong answer. You can hear the dramatic music in there. So
very dramatic.
All right. So
I might need my little Jesus, man.
You can have it back if you want it.
Right.
No, I'm good.
You can shoot from the hip on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So who would win in a fight between a giant polar bear and a great white shark? They're in a body of water 6 feet deep of infinite dimensions. There's no sides, there's no edge, there's no shoreline. Who wins in that fight? Great white shark or polar bear?
Man, I don't know. That's not my field of expertise.
You don't have to be an expert. This is there's like no right or no wrong.
This is gut check time.
Then bear. I have to say the shark.
The shark. All right, there we go.
What's the logic there? How do you get to the shark winning? Just out of curiosity.
Because it can swim.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, there's no way that a bear can be. I mean, a bear can swim, but not like a shark can swim.
Yeah.
So you put a bear in water, that's not really a fair fight, right? Because he's a land mammal that then goes into the water to feed.
Yep.
So a shark would have, there's all kinds of questions. I go, how big is a shark? How big is a bear? Is it 6 foot long? I need a little more data to really a good answer. But just, the country boy into me, I caught an alligator gar yesterday, which is almost a shark. Yeah, man, it took me 15 minutes.
How long was his snoot?
So his snoot was about this long. I've never caught one before.
Oh,
well,
about that long.
Wow.
It's an incredible fight.
And those things are
incredible.
Those things are
super aggressive.
Ugly.
Super aggressive, prehistoric, has the teeth. And,
yeah. It's one of those weird experiments. I remember growing up in the country area of Central Florida, and the first time I saw that, I was like, what is that? Like alligator gar.
It's a nasty leftover swimming dinosaur is what it is.
Exactly what it is.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, he is Rick Wells, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just look right here at the camera for our call to action. There's lots of different ways that you can interact. If you are someone who is in need of support of some kind, One Heart McKinney is a great place to start. Scott Elliott has been a guest on this podcast, and we could not be more proud to partner with One Heart and get the word out for those that need it. If you want a great meal, you got two choices in Rick's ecosystem. You can stop by the Chophouse or make a reservation at Harvest. If you need family to come into town, Grand Hotel is a great place to stop. And we're just going to continue this conversation a few months from now. Let the dust settle. Let Rick get back to doing what he does best, and we'll have him back again. Rick, thanks so much for your time generously today.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. And folks, it's been another episode of the McKinney Podcast, celebrating what makes us unique by nature. We'll catch you next week, boys and girls. Y'all take care.